So you've done the work. You are doing the work. You've journaled, affirmed, visualized. Maybe you even worked with coaches or therapists, and yet certain patterns won't budge. Maybe you keep overcommitting or doubting yourself or shutting down when things get hard. Maybe you're the one people turn to, the one who holds space, who makes decisions, who leads the charge. You've built a life around making an impact, and still you hesitate before making a big move in your business or career, afraid of making the wrong choice. You say yes when you mean to say no because disappointing people still feels unbearable. You carry the weight of responsibility, feeling like if you don't hold it all together, everything will fall apart. So you overwork, overprepare, overfunction, even when your body is screaming to rest. Or maybe you freeze completely, suddenly unable to move forward, even though you know what it is you want to do. So what if I told you this is not simply a matter of self-doubt or perfectionism or burnout, that it's actually something deeper, a part of you hidden away, secretly running the show behind the scenes? In this video, we are talking about exiled parts and how the ones carrying your deepest wounds are actually the key to breaking through these cycles. And I'll share a real life example of how this plays out both in your leadership and in life. I'm Andrea Tessier, IFS practitioner and master life coach. I help conscious leaders use parts work and inner child healing to finally move past old cycles and step into what I call liberated leadership, leading a life from a place of deep trust, alignment, and ease. If you're curious about how this type of inner work can shift everything, hit that subscribe button. I share IFS insights every week. So what are exiles? Exiles are the parts of you that hold intense emotions, shame, fear, grief, beliefs of unworthiness from past experiences. They're the parts of you that at some point felt too much, too messy, or too painful to deal with, and so they got pushed away. But here's the thing. Exiles aren't just carrying deep emotions, they're burdened with beliefs about themselves and the world that were formed during painful moments and never questioned. So what does it mean to be burdened? So imagine you were handed a heavy backpack as a child, one filled with messages about who you are, what's acceptable, and how to stay safe. Over time, you forget that you're even carrying it, but it still weighs you down, shaping the way you move through the world. And that's what burdens are: deep-seated beliefs or emotional pain that exiles carry. And because they were created in moments of overwhelm or trauma, they often feel absolute, like a law of the universe. I'll give you an example of exiles and their burdens. There's the familiar burden of the overachiever. Imagine a woman whose father only praised her when she achieved straight A's, awards, promotions. So her exile carries the belief, I'm only worthy if I'm productive. She doesn't even question it. She actually doesn't even realize consciously it exists. It's like the air she breathes. So now, even when she's exhausted, she can't slow down without feeling deep shame. With a good girl burden. A child who learned that expressing big emotions, anger, sadness, even joy, led to shame or punishment. Her exile carries the belief it's not safe to express my emotions. So now, as an adult in a relationship, she struggles to be vulnerable. She keeps her struggles to herself and feels like she has to be the strong one for everybody else. Then there's the burden of the invisible one, the boy who was constantly overlooked in a busy family, never asked how he was feeling. His exile carries the belief, my needs don't matter. As an adult, he doesn't even know what he wants. He automatically prioritizes everybody else, struggling to advocate for himself and his needs. So, why do we bury these exiles? Exiles carry pain, and our system doesn't want us to feel that pain. So other parts of us, managers like the perfectionist or the overachievers, step in to keep them hidden. The woman who can't stop overworking isn't just ambitious, she's trying to avoid the shame of not being enough. Right? The leader who keeps her emotions in check isn't just strong, she's avoiding the deep fear that if she expresses herself, she'll be rejected. The activist who burns herself out giving back to others isn't just selfless, she's unconsciously reinforcing the belief that her needs don't matter anyway. The problem? These exiles don't just go away, and time does not heal all wounds. They just find ways to seep through in moments of stress, exhaustion, or overwhelm. And managers, those are the protectors that keep the system in control. These are our proactive protectors of our system. Their job is to make sure you never, ever, ever feel the pain of an exile ever again. They do this by keeping things under control, ensuring you never get too close to those wounds. So some common managers, the overachiever. If I just work harder and prove myself, I'll never feel unworthy. The perfectionist. If I never make a mistake, I'll never feel rejected. The people pleaser who thinks everyone likes me, I'll never be abandoned. The inner critic. The inner critic thinks if I'm hard on myself, no one else can criticize me. Managers think they are keeping us safe, but what they're really doing is keeping the exile buried, ensuring we never have to feel that old pain. But what happens when life keeps lifing and gets overwhelming? Enter the firefighters, the protectors that soothe and distract and shut it down. When managers can't keep things together anymore, or the stakes and stress is too high, when emotions start bubbling up, firefighters take over. They are the reactive protectors of the system. And their job? To put the fire of emotional pain out as quickly as possible. They might soothe or distract to balance the system, and underneath a firefighter is an exile. So some common firefighters: numbing out, scrolling, binge watching, online shopping, over drinking, shutting down, avoidance, procrastination, and isolation, lashing out, defensiveness or rage or impulsive decisions, self-sabotage, quitting something important before failing. Firefighters don't care about long-term consequences. They're just trying to stop the pain fast. As an example, if an overachiever manager fails to prevent embarrassment at work, a firefighter might step in by binge watching Netflix all night to avoid the feeling of the sting of rejection. You can watch my video, Firefighters versus Managers, how they shape your response to life for an even deeper dive on these two categories of protectors. So, how it all works together. The invisible cycle. Let's go back to our high achieving woman who ties her worth to her productivity. As a child, her exile learned, I am only valuable when I'm doing something productive. So, to keep her from ever feeling unworthy, her manager became an overachiever. As long as I'm productive, I won't feel that pain. But when she hits burnout and productivity is no longer possible, a firefighter kicks in. Maybe through binging on Netflix, maybe through procrastination, maybe going out and having way too many wines with her friends. But the exile's pain never actually goes away. It just keeps getting managed and suppressed. And the problem is that no amount of achievement will ever make the exile feel safe completely, because healing doesn't come from achieving more. It comes from meeting the exile directly. I want to share with you a real life example where Barb found her true calling. So, meet Barb, a high achieving executive who had spent years climbing the corporate ladder. She was the go-to person, the one who always had the answers, always picked up the slack, always delivered. Everything fell on her shoulders. But deep down, she was running on empty. After years of pushing through exhaustion, she finally hit a wall. Burnout forced her to step away, and for the first time in her life, she had no plan. Just the overwhelming realization that what she'd been doing for decades no longer felt aligned. So she did what any highly capable, problem-solving leader would do. She started searching for the next step. She devoured books, took personal development courses, explored different healing modalities, and slowly started to reconnect with herself in a way she had never before. And there was something deeper happening beneath the surface. When we started working together, Barb discovered that she had been living under an exile-driven burden her entire life. The belief that her worth was tied to what she produced and how much she achieved. And growing up, the only time she truly felt seen was when she excelled, winning awards, acing tests, being praised for how capable she was. And somewhere along the way, a young part of her learned that love and validation weren't really given. They had to be earned. That burdened exile, that part of her still carried that old childhood belief, was still running the show long after she left her corporate gig. Even though she wanted to step into something new, she would hear thoughts like, who am I if I'm not the one others depend on? Can I really trust myself to build a different kind of life? And is it even possible to succeed without burning out? But here's the thing. The exile wasn't acting alone. Other parts of Barb's system were protecting the exile. That young part of her that carried so much fear and shame, her managers had worked hard to keep it hidden. The overachieving manager, the part that kept her pushing, succeeding, over-delivering, made sure the exile never had to feel unworthy again. If she was always productive, she'd never have to face the belief that she wasn't enough. The inner critic manager, the voice that constantly reminded her to be better, faster, stronger. It wasn't trying to make her suffer. It was terrified that if she wasn't perfect, she'd lose the love and approval she so deeply, deeply needed. The people-pleasing manager, the part that made her say yes when she meant to say no, made her feel responsible for everyone's happiness and ensured that she was always needed. If she was indispensable, she never had to be abandoned. So when things got to be too much, her firefighters jumped in. The overworking one kept her staying busy, checking emails late at night, constantly doing something. The one that numbed her out, scrolling, binge watching, even over-consuming information. The self-doubt firefighter, questioning everything, hesitating before big decisions, keeping her frozen in analysis paralysis so she wouldn't take a step that felt too risky. Now, let's be clear here. These parts weren't working against her. They were trying to protect her from the exile's pain. The real shift for Barb wasn't just in changing careers. It was learning how to lead herself differently. Instead of letting her managers and firefighters keep running the show, she started meeting her exile from self-energy. Self-energy is that wise, calm, grounded essence inside of all of us that is not afraid of our exiles, but also isn't driven by our managers. When Barb connected with her exile, she didn't try to fix it or override it or push past it. Instead, her self-energy was able to listen. And for the first time, that young part of her felt truly seen, not for what she could do, but for who she was. And when that happened, her whole system started to shift. The overachiever softened so she could still take action, but from choice rather than fear. Her people pleaser realized she didn't have to earn her place in people's lives. Her critic stepped back, finally trusting that she didn't need to be perfect to be valuable. But then, as systems generally do, the exile still showed up. As she stepped into her new path and her new career as a healer, she thought she finally moved past her old patterns and they were gone for good. But she found herself hustling again, overwhelmed by everything she had to do, questioning if it was enough. Because here's the thing, we don't just leave our burdens behind. When we step into something new, our exiles come with us. So the work isn't just changing careers or shifting into a new role. It's learning to lead our inner system differently. But the shift was this. This time she caught it. Instead of letting the old managers take over, she paused. She checked in. She recognized and reconnected with the part of her that still needed reassurance. And when she did, she finally started building her life and business from self-energy, rather than from the old burden of needing to prove herself. So this is the work. It's not about leaving a situation, and it's not about a one and done. It's about truly liberating the parts of you that still believe you have to earn your worth. And let me know in the comments. Do you recognize any of Barb's story in yourself? Have you ever felt like your worth was tied to what you produce? So, how do we begin to heal? We get to break the cycle and heal from self-energy. IFS is not about getting rid of any of our parts. It's about leading them differently. The only part of you that can truly set an exile free is not even a part. It's an essence of self. That calm, wise, compassionate core deep inside of you that is not afraid of your pain, isn't overwhelmed by it, and doesn't need to control it. When we work with our exiles from self energy, something truly incredible happens. Managers start to relax because they trust that you're handling things. Firefighters don't have to be so extreme because they see the system is in balance and the exile is safe. And exiles finally get to release their burdens because they are no longer trapped in the past. Healing our exiles isn't about forcing positivity. It's about welcoming them back with curiosity. It's about witnessing. It's about shifting from managing and avoiding to actually leading the parts of you that have been carrying pain for so long. And just like it was for Barb, it's not an instant process. And it's not about getting rid of any part of you. Instead, it's about developing a relationship where these parts finally feel safe enough to step out of their extreme roles. So where do we start? First, notice when you feel an outsized reaction, right? When you feel a wave of an emotion that feels bigger than a situation calls for. If you've ever reacted in a way that even surprised you, or felt a sudden pull, like an urge to overwork, procrastinate, or numb out. These are clues that an exile is stirring beneath the surface. Instead of pushing through or shaming yourself for overreacting, it's an invitation for a powerful pause. And you get to ask yourself, who in me is feeling this? And when have I felt this way before? Is this reaction familiar? Often when we slow down and turn inwards, we realize this feeling's been with us for such a long time. It goes beyond the moment today to something deeper that's never been truly seen. Like you get critical feedback at work or a negative comment on a post, and instead of brushing it off, you feel crushed. There is a deep shame that washes over you. And if you pause and check in, you might realize this isn't about the feedback. This isn't about the comment. It's touching a younger part of you that learned that making a mistake and being unworthy of love. The first step, awareness. The moment you notice what's happening, you've already shifted something. And then we get curious. Curiosity is the opposite of judgment. Instead of trying to silence or fight your reaction, get to know the part of you that's feeling this way. Asking gentle, open-ended questions. How long have you been carrying this? What are you afraid will happen if you let go of this belief? What do you need from me right now? And at first, the answer might not come in words. You might feel an image, a sensation, even notice a memory come to the surface. Often, exiles are still frozen in these moments, carrying the same emotions they felt back then. Curiosity shifts everything. Instead of feeling trapped in a reaction, you can start to see it from a new perspective. And then you can build a bridge. Once you've noticed the part and gotten curious about it, the next step is to start building a relationship. Exiles might not trust easily. If they've been pushed away for years or decades in some cases, they're used to being hidden or rejected or overridden by protector parts. Your job is to help them feel safe again. How do you do that? Well, you acknowledge the pain. You give them the acceptance, the awareness, become available for them so they know that you see them. Remind them they are not alone. From self-energy, you can approach them with compassion, not urgency. Why this works? Well, what doesn't work and hasn't been working is ignoring or suppressing. Right? What hasn't worked has been trying to logic your way out of it or overriding with forced positivity. What does work? Slowing down and listening, approaching your parts with curiosity, not judgment, and building bridges to form new relationships. One where exiles are no longer running the show silently because they are no longer abandoned. Healing begins with curiosity, not fixing. The goal is not to rush the process, it's to reclaim each and every part of you and integrate the parts that have been waiting for your presence all along. This is the real path to liberation. Not just shifting the external circumstances, but truly freeing yourself from the inside out. Exiles are the hidden parts of you carrying deep emotional wounds and burdens from the past. They hold beliefs like, I am only worthy if I achieve, or it's not as safe to express my emotions. Managers and firefighters work hard to keep the exiles hidden, thinking they're protecting you. This is why you might overwork, overprepare, or shut down when emotions start to rise. Again, these parts are not working against you. They just need leadership. And true healing isn't about pushing through or forcing the positivity. It's about meeting the calm, wise presence inside of you. And as you begin to heal, you'll notice when you're having an outsized reaction. Instead of dismissing it, you might pause and ask, who inside of me is feeling this? You can build a bridge by showing up consistently. When parts feel safe, they finally begin to release their burdens. So, which part of you from today's video resonated most? Do you recognize managers and firefighters, how they show up in your life? Or do you recognize the subtle voice of the exile? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your insights. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful, hit like, share, subscribe for more IFS insights every week. See you in the next one.